Welcome to the channel. So today I'm going to attempt to repair some pet damage on this leather settee or sofa behind me. Right, so first off, I am a complete novice at leather repair. So this is just my journey, if you like, working out how to actually complete this repair. And this repair is pet damage, so it's our blue-fronted Amazon parrot. He's got free reign of the house really, but he really does like chewing leather. We've got to watch him, but sometimes unfortunately he gets away with it. So on this particular settee or sofa behind me, we've got scratches, bite marks, that type of thing. I'm not doing any sort of filling or very little filling of the leather itself. It's more to do with working out how to recolour the leather and hopefully get an almost invisible repair. So if you've got a leather settee or sofa that has a stain or scratches, then this is definitely the video for you. So the first process for me was doing as much research as possible, and that obviously includes looking at videos on YouTube. What really annoyed me about 90% of the videos that I've watched is they're very detailed going through the repair, and this is even from companies that sell the repair kits. Very detailed in the repair, and literally 5 seconds at the end focusing on the actual finished repair itself, which just tells me that maybe it's not as invisible as they make out. Some of them actually look quite poor. So I went beyond that. I've done some desktop research as well, looking at books, one or two other bits and pieces. So this basically is my version of all of the information that I've put together. Again, it's a very basic video, so it's nothing to do with sort of filling holes or splits. It's more to do with the recolouring. I'm also going to be doing another video on regraining and filling holes and stuff like that, but obviously I need to get some experience in first before I do one of those videos. So after doing all the research, the first thing I did was obviously to look at kits. These small repair kits are obviously the way to go for small repairs like I'm doing. They are relatively expensive though for what they are. The products in it must be a fifth of the cost of the actual repair kit, but didn't have any choice because most of these companies that supply these repair kits all seem to stick around the same price band. So I bought a small repair kit, water-based repair kit, so it uses acrylic paints, water-based glues as well. Seems to be the easiest thing to work with. That's what I'm going to be using today. Plenty of kits out there. This is not a sales video, so I'm not going to go through which kit I actually use, but they're all very similar in their makeup. Right, so if we just have a look at the damage. So this is obviously, you see it here, this is beak damage. We've taken off the top layer. There are a few strands of leather sticking out. I'm going to have to get rid of those. But mainly this video, as I said, is about recolouring, trying to get an almost invisible repair. And there's plenty of damage around this settee all over the place. So if we can get the invisible repair done in one place, then obviously I'll be able to go around and do the rest. Okay, so some more damage here again, just there. So it's as I said, it's basically a recolouring of the leather itself to try and hide as much as we can. Right, so just a quick word on the type of repair kit that you're going to buy. So obviously I chose a water-based or an acrylic-based kit. You do need to understand what colour the particular item that you're going to repair is. So if it's a settee or sofa, you need to know really what the base colour is. So with this particular settee, the base colour is brown, but obviously it's a shade of brown. So me having absolutely no knowledge at all about colours, I had to do a little bit of research to see what the primary colours are that make up brown, which is red, yellow and blue. So that does dictate what colours you have in your repair kit. So obviously this is a brown settee, so the repair kit I bought had a base colour of brown, and I also made sure that there was red, yellow and blue as what they call the tinting colours, which is basically just smaller pots of paint. So I'm using acrylic based leather paint, which is nice and flexible. It did become a bit confusing to me between colourants, dyes and paints, but I just stuck with paint for this particular exercise. So once I understood that the base colour brown, what that was made up of, I could then obviously order the kit. Right, so the next step was to work out exactly what shade of brown this particular settee or sofa is. So I downloaded an app called Colour Name, but there are so many different apps out there. This is a free app, but every half a minute or so a window will pop up asking you to go professional, which is obviously paid for. You just cancel that. So this is a free app, but there are lots out there, and what it will do is we need to find an area where that's not faded. So somewhere like that. This is where someone's head's been, so obviously that's faded, but this is more of a true colour of what the settee or sofa was originally. Point the iPad camera at that, and the app that you use should register a possible name for the colour, and also, really importantly, the RGB makeup, what colours it's actually made up of. So this is typical of the pop-up screen that comes up telling you to do a 3-day trial for free, but I'm going to completely ignore that. So when we look at this, so we're looking at, it gives all different options, but the one that seems to come up a lot is called Seal Brown for this particular suite. Which is across the top, and that gives an RGB reading of 50, 20, 20. So from there, I then put that RGB colour into the computer. This app probably does it, but I haven't worked out how to do that yet. So put that into the computer, and loads of different sites will come up and tell you exactly what that RGB colour is made up of. That's how I got to the colour match for this particular settee. And what it said was 55% red, 22% blue, 22% yellow. So the fact that I'd ordered a brown base, all it really meant to me was that I just needed to add a little bit of red to that brown in order to come up with some form of match. Right, so let me just run through the web research side of it with regard to the colour. And again, the app that I'm using probably does this, but it's quite new to me, so hopefully you can, I'm not sure if you can see that on the screen. So I've typed in RGB 50, 20, 20. Just pick one of these sites which actually tell you what the colour is. So it's coming there, Seal Brown, which is what the app told me it was. And if we just scroll down, it actually gives the RGB makeup. So for this, for Seal Brown, we have 55% red, 22% green and 22% blue. So that's where I got the idea from of using brown, which presumably is equal amounts of red, green and blue. Might be wrong. And then just adding a little bit more red, because obviously in Seal Brown, red is the predominant colour. In fact, there's twice as much red in there as there is green and blue. So that's where I got the information from. Hopefully that will work for every colour, but that's a process I actually used. Right, so the majority of damage to this settee is on the piping. Don't think that's going to be an easy thing to blend in, but there's a lot of leather stuck up from where the parrot's got his beak and sort of turned it out. So what I'm going to have to do is get rid of that. In the kit I got, there was a tiny piece of 1200 wet and dry sandpaper, so I'm going to use that, but first I'm going to use a sharp knife. You could use a Stanley knife blade for this. You don't actually get that with the kit. And I'm just going to trim off as much of these stuck out pieces as possible without creating too much damage. Obviously, if you're going to do this, be careful you don't dig into the leather. So once I've trimmed off the majority of those larger pieces, next thing to do is I'm just going to sand this area down. obviously to try and get it as smooth as I can. So now we've sanded this down as best we can. There are still some areas that are sort of stuck up. If this was anything larger than just tiny pieces to take off, I wouldn't have used the blade. So let's say these were cat scratches, I wouldn't have used a blade. What I would have done is open them up, put some glue behind them and then flatten them down. But because these were really tiny pieces, I didn't think I could do that. So once we get to this stage, there are still a couple of pieces stuck up. So the next thing I'm going to do is clean this area fully and then use a little bit of the water-based glue that comes with the kit just to flatten some of these down so they don't spring up again, because I'm not using any filler. Obviously if there were deep gouges in here, I'd be using the filler and that would hopefully keep these pieces down. But because I'm not using any filler, I'm going to go straight in with paint. I'm just going to use a little bit of the glue just to stick some of these other areas down. Alright, so once I've sanded the area down, before I apply any glue or any other products, I'm going to clean this area thoroughly, and I'm going to be using an IPA mixture, or isopropyl alcohol, 50% that. If you haven't got any isopropyl alcohol or you can't get hold of any, then things like reading glasses, lens wipes, or there should actually be a prep wipe that comes with your kit. So just a clean cloth. And just clean the whole area. I'm not just going to clean the repair area, I'm going to clean a large section of this settee or sofa as well, because that will help me with the colour match, because at the moment this settee is dirty, it's shiny, so we need to get that off, and that will give us the best match for the colour. So these water-based products, the glue, the filler, the paints, are all air dried, or the majority of them are air dried, so they'll cure naturally. However, you can accelerate the process using a hairdryer. So I'm going to be using a hairdryer for this process, so I'm just going to dry this off first. Right, so now that's all dry. The kit that I purchased, this is what the glue looks like. I think it's just 10 mil or 10 grams, so not a lot at all. In fact, this could actually be 5 grams. And I also get a spatula as well. So I'm not sure if the camera can pick that up, but there's quite a large piece here, which obviously I didn't want to cut off with the blade, because that would have left a gouge. So I'm going to be gluing that down. So this is basically the process you would use for cat scratches. So I'm going to open it up, put some glue behind it, and then flatten it down again. Although the applicator looks like super glue or a super glue container, the actual glue itself just looks like, well, craft glue that you'd buy in a craft set. Because it's water based, quite easy to wipe off and clean obviously the utensils afterwards. So I'll just go over this whole area, and as I said, this will hopefully tie those fibres down. Not going to fill any voids, but it will tidy it up hopefully. And again, you just want to go underneath the fibre, and then I'm obviously going to press those down. So let's put the top back on that to stop any more from coming out. Now, so I'm going to push these fibres down. And then accelerate the drying process. Right, so the glue's dried, it has flattened all of those fibres down. So this is the colourant stage now. From our research on the app and the internet, as I showed, we've got a brown which has a significant amount of added red in there. So just for the purpose of the video, just to show you on this lid, there's our brown. Just take a small artist brush. I'm just going to mix in some of this red colour. And obviously we're going to do a small test spot. So one thing almost all the videos say is that it won't show you a true colour until you've actually dried it. So it doesn't look exactly right at this stage. Wait until after it's dried. Also, this is, well, it's almost the same as repairing dents and scratches and stuff in cars. This acts as a base coat which will show you any imperfections. So imperfections that you can't see before adding the paint, you will be able to see afterwards, so you'll be able to rectify those as well. We'll do a little bit of that. So that isn't bad, but just looking at it here, I think we might need a little bit more red adding to it for the second coat. So this will take several coats of colour to blend in properly, and because it's a small area, that's the only reason I'm using an artist brush. If it's a larger area, you could dab it on with a cloth, clean cloth. Right, so I'm going to dry that and we'll see how we go from there. Right, so if you have a look at this, obviously this is faded, so that's never going to be a colour match. I think it's still a little bit brown, or base colour brown. So I'm going to add, for the second coat, I'm going to add a little bit more red. May need lightening slightly. There's a rough patch there. So any sanding, now's the time to do it. So I'm going to sand a little bit there to try and get this transition between the good leather and the damaged leather a little bit less noticeable. And then there's a piece across here as well which needs sanding down. So I'm not going to film it, but I'm going to sand down with that 1200 grit, and then I'll mix a second batch of paint and let's see how we go with that. Okay, so for our second coat, I've got our brown, just started to mix a little bit of red in there. I've also got some yellow, because obviously I know that what brown is actually made up of, just in case we need to go a little bit lighter. Don't know whether that will work. So we'll just put a little bit more, let's put a little bit more red in there. The red may be enough. Put that on. Yep, don't think I'm going to need the yellow. So it's just a case of adding more red than I thought. Let's get some of this blended in. Presumably with this kind of repair you just have to go beyond the actual repair area itself just to blend it in. the videos I've watched, it does say 3 or 4 applications of the leather paint. Okay, so one more coat. Got my brown, red, still kept the yellow on there, might go for it. I just think I'm going to add a little bit more red into this final coat than I have been doing. And the thing with this process I've learned is that if you don't get the match right in the base, in the first coat, then you just need to progress, get it a much better finish and match as you go through the different coats. Just a learning curve really. So let's add, in fact let's add almost all of that in. See, that's an even better match. So it is just a learning curve. I think I'm lucky in a certain respect that this particular colour of this couch is different shades as you go through the different textures of the leather, which was picked up by the colour app. Did give me about 4 or 5 different possibilities. So what I'm saying is, if you, with this type of leather colourant, if you don't get it absolutely spot on, hopefully it'll just blend in anyway. I can imagine with one solid colour of leather, you're going to have to be a lot more accurate. Yeah, I'm a lot happier with that final colour. Okay, next thing to do, just to force the drying process. Right, so now I've got a fairly good match. I can just go around and touch up the other areas. Okay, so this is the repair now. Quite pleased with it. It was actually quite difficult to try and blend this in because it's different tones. I thought it would be easy, as I mentioned earlier in the video, but it was actually quite difficult because a solid colour just stands out far too much. So I've ended up mixing different shades of this colour, more red in, less red in, and just gone over areas to try and blend it in. Next thing is I'm going to leave it for 24 hours, and then what came with the kit, which was extra, was a thing called Leather Finisher, matte finish. So I'm going to apply that to give it some extra protection, and also to just dull down this sheen a little bit. Right, so just to recap what I've actually learned from this experience. The kits are great, very expensive though for what they are. It's just ridiculous how much it costs for the kits. If I was going to do this more, and I think I will do, I'll probably look at those individual items separately and try and build a kit with more products in it for less money. But they do the job. Sanding leather, more difficult than a lot of these YouTube videos I've made out, unless I'm doing something wrong. Sanding the leather down was great, but you get to a point where fibres start to pick up again, so you're back to square one. I'll definitely have to do more research on that. If I was doing this repair again, I would have used a little bit of filler, because getting that surface correct is quite crucial, especially if you're trying to look for an almost invisible repair. The colour app, so an app to identify the colour or the shade of colour that you're dealing with on your particular project. Absolutely invaluable. Then going on the internet and doing that research to find out what that particular shade is made up of. I think I would have been here a lot longer, maybe 2-3 times longer, if I didn't have that assistance. So that is definitely a massive plus. The fact that this settee is multi-tone, I thought that would have been a benefit. It wasn't a benefit, especially if you're looking at an area or a larger area to actually repair, because that solid colour just stands out a mile, so you're having to blend different combinations of those primary colours in order to try and blend that in. And I can see why these apps or these YouTube videos tell you to colour the entire panel, not just one area, because it is really difficult. But I did okay, really enjoyed it. I'm going to do a lot more research into this and hopefully a few more videos on this particular subject. Please subscribe to the channel, and as usual, if you've enjoyed this particular video, hit the like button. Thank you very much for watching.